I'm Kevin.
And I'm Lucas, and this is Millennial Cope. Oh, shit.
And we're keeping that now. This is Millennial Cope Podcast.
Yeah, great. I can't speak. Fantastic.
Hey, I don't use words very good either.
But no, yeah, you were saying before we started for the second time or whatever that, you wanted me to kind of go first. Yeah, no, just wanted to bring up the World Cup because, like, how can we not talk about the World Cup? It's only the biggest thing happening in the world right now.
And, it's funny. We talked about this earlier, and I was saying, like, I honestly don't know what's happening besides the South Koreans beating Germany, and I really don't care about the World Cup anymore. Like, how can you not care about the World Cup?
Well, the reason why I said that is because I remember back in high school, you were over at my house and we were watching it. I mean, what year was that? I mean, we were going to be 16 years old or something, but that was hype as shit. I remember Landon Donovan. Was that his name? Landon Donovan?
Yeah, with Team USA, and Tim Howard was the goalkeeper.
Tim Howard, yeah, that guy was a monster, man. Dude was a monster of a goalie. Really realizing just how much he kept us in the games. It's awesome, but pretty sad at the same time.
And I think that last game against, it may have been Algeria, where we scored in the last, the 90th or 91st minute to actually get into the World Cup, right?
Dude, I don't even remember that. The fact that you remember that tells me you care more about the World Cup than you want to think you don't.
Well, at the time, of course.
You're letting on.
Well, at the time, of course, but I think when I was younger, I cared about sports more in general, whether it be the Green Bay Packers, the football team, or
wah.
They're terrible this year. But like, it's weird after college and you work a little bit. Like, I'm finding it more and more like I care less and less about sports. Not diss anyone who does. It just like
no, screw them, diss them.
Well, I know. I honestly, like, if that's what you enjoy. I mean, like, I have my own hobbies that you might find nerdy, right? But for me, it's just I might keep up to date on, like, almost like a male soap opera, like what's happening in the NBA or NFL, like with crazy characters, or like just people saying wild stuff, like with the Kyrie stuff, or what happened with Antonio Brown, like kind of what we talked about like a couple previous podcasts in the past. More the drama, but actually caring. Like, I remember I would be devastated if the Packers lost in the playoffs, like they did to the Giants, I believe, in 2007. Yeah, just like.
Well, you were younger too, and that's less about maybe you care so much, and maybe just more about you being young, right?
Yeah.
Your emotion, you can't control your emotions as much, but no, that's good. I mean, that's interesting. No, you made some good points, right? So just a drama series, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And
you care about the sports now because we just want to see what the next controversy is going to be.
Yeah. No, again, it's spectacle. Like, it's very, you're drawn towards attention. Now, in terms of this actual World Cup, I really don't care about it just because for me, the way that's been handled and set up, I mean, there's multiple different accounts on how much actual migrant workers died, 6,500. In order to build all these stadiums, the corruption probably took to actually get to host the event in Qatar. But again, you can have all these arguments of, well, if it was in some other country, there's always going to be some type of corruption, yada, yada, yada. But then also, like, football's not my favorite sport. And I think your interests just change, right? It's actually a big time investment to watch any type of sporting event. 2 to 3 hours. Right. So maybe you want to watch that time, use that time to watch YouTube or build something or do something productive. I'm not saying you always have to be productive, but what's more entertaining to you, Lucas? Watching YouTube content directly tailored to your interest, or, the World Cup? For me, I know the answer.
Yeah, well, YouTube is just so easy to get into.
Yeah.
That's where it is. I mean, the biggest thing too is, I don't have cable anymore. No one's got cable. I actually looked it up. I was like, how do I watch the World Cup? Like live streaming. You have to have, you have to have Peacock. I'm like, oh, shit. Great. So another useless channel, like, to subscribe to or something. But yeah, Peacock would give you full access to all the World Cup games. But again, this is kind of backing up to your other point, though. Yeah, it's like the interest has shift. Because I'm the same way. As I've gotten older, I definitely do not care about sports as much either. But again, that goes back to maybe because I just don't have cable TV, so I don't give a fuck about trying to follow it and watch it.
Yeah.
But even if I had it, I wouldn't have it.
Yeah.
It just I'm kind of the opposite though a little bit because the World Cup, even though like I'm kind of falling out with sports too, the World Cup, these are countries. It's just something so like the energy is just different. Right? It's like not even about the sport. It's about is this country better than the other country, and just so happens that we facilitate it through soccer or football, right?
Yeah.
I've seen those jokes come back up again too, right? Is it soccer? Is it football? It's all I see now on Reddit.
Well, I will concede. I think it is football, but it's interesting you say that too because that is one of the truly beautiful things about sports, like how national and prideful it can be. Like you're fighting for something bigger than you. So it could almost be compared to religious experience for the people watching it and the actual people on the team in a good way, right? That sense of community, of belonging. And there was actually, I'm not sure if you remember watching this. I'm not sure if we watched it together when we were in high school. But you remember those ESPN 30 for 30 documentaries?
Oh, those were so good.
Yeah. One of the best. Like one of the best ones was called Once Brothers, and actually talks about the breakup of Yugoslavia. Because if you remember in the 1950s to 1980s, I don't know exactly when the country broke up into like smaller partition countries, but that Yugoslavia team were absolute monsters. They would constantly show up against the United States in the Olympics and I guess the FIBA World Championships too, and actually win a couple and compete pretty favorably against the United States. And once these countries broke up because of politics and governments and things being split up, you actually had these strong brotherly, like comrade bonds between players kind of dissipate and grow very sour. It's actually a very powerful documentary about how these teammates, again, who were brothers, they, at least in the minds of a couple of the teammates, those bonds were irrevocably broken, right? Like where they couldn't be repaired, even though one of the other sides was trying to repair it. For like, you might think it's silly, but again, this kind of goes to like the nationalistic side, right? Like what caused this? So in the documentary, I think one of the players, it's kind of left up to interpretation. You could say purposely or accidentally stepped on this newly formed nation's flag as part, as part of a celebration. And then his old teammate, part of this new country, again, could never forgive them. So the whole documentary is about the relationship. But I think that just goes to show you like how strong these communities can be, right? Because it's a sense of national pride and pride in yourself when you're competing for, again, something greater than yourself. So, I totally get it, right? Like, can you imagine your country winning, like being the best football team in the world?
Yeah, it's pretty wild to think about in terms of that, grand scale kind of event. And that's what makes it more interesting. Like, again, that's like another kind of drama in its own self now for countries.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. But, too, though, so hold on. If it's between football and soccer, then, right? See, the reason why I think it should be called soccer is because we have a name for soccer and football. So, in terms of, what do they call football then? What do they call our football?
American football.
Oh, right.
Yeah. So I would actually have to look at what came first, but I believe football, like non-American football, came first. Again, I'll double check it. Actually, you can probably look at it right now. Actually, we can just share screen.
Right. Okay. Well, here's the other step though. Then what do they call the ball? The soccer ball. What do they call it? Do they call it a soccer ball still? The Europeans?
1 second. What came first, American football or football?
But you see what I'm saying, though, right? What do the Europeans call the ball that they play with?
The ball.
Oh, God. Okay, the Europeans, yeah. They're clever. Nah, I'm on our side. You don't just call it a ball. You don't just call the golf. So what do they call the golf? The Europeans, they play golf too. They call the golf ball just the ball? They call every ball just the ball.
I'm not sure. I don't follow.
That's where these bullshit. You're serious. Think about it. That's bullshit, man.
Well, no, I'm pretty sure football came before American football.
I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about in terms of they want to call the soccer ball just the ball. That's fine. But then how does that apply to if they play basketball? And say, no, they don't even say basketball. They say, no, the ball. Everything's a ball.
Well,
you play the golf and it's the ball.
Maybe they just call it football. I don't know.
That's what I'm saying. So that's why I like ours better because we actually have names for these things, which is again why I like Again, maybe I'm being arrogant, but it's one of those things like we have like an alien language and stuff, like in Star Wars, right? It's like Galactic Basic. English is like Galactic Basic. It's like we have these names for these things. We don't try to spin anything. It's like this is what it is, and call it this. We don't have to twist our. We don't have to twist our language. We just call it what it is.
So not necessarily. There's a room for a lot of interpretation with the English language, but
also with the Europeans at least.
Well, I think coming from a very like Americanized perspective, like if you go anywhere in the world and they were like shown the balls, they would all call it a football, and they wouldn't call the American football the football.
Right, but I mean that's some sass. It really made me think of it. I saw a funny commercial with it was Peyton Manning and David Beckham, and they were arguing about what it's called. But it started because Peyton Manning was calling chips, and David Beckham was calling them crisp.
Oh, okay.
They're crisp. It's like shit. And it's like soccer, football. But no, at this point, I'm on our side. We actually have names for these things, and football, soccer makes sense. The soccer ball, not just a ball.
So in 2003, you were like when we were invading Iraq, you're like, okay, let's go. I'm joking, of course, but no, I get your point. Like there's so many different names for different stuff. Like a lot of it's slang, right? So I think both sides get a good laugh of our slang for different things.
Yeah, again, we gave it a slang to which is cool. But yeah, so again, that's just why the World Cup is it is more don't have cable and stuff, but I'm enjoying kind of keeping up with it and watching it when I can. But where did you want to go to though? You said you want to talk about the Disney World.
Yeah, so I'm not sure if you've seen the headlines, at least on Reddit or business publications. But essentially, what happened this last week or maybe week and a half, Bob Iger, the famous CEO from Disney, I think he was there for around 20 plus years. He left around February 2020 before the pandemic hit. So the point is, like, for his tenure at Disney, he was very well regarded. He was heralded as bringing in like these impressive stock returns on investment for shareholders, kind of revamping the parks, the acquisition of Marvel, Lucasfilm, basically making Disney into like a full-scale conglomerate of entertainment, almost like monopolizing child content and kind of young adults, 19 to 49 demographic, right? So the last 2 years, the new CEO, Bob Chapek, I don't know how to pronounce his last name, he was very much less so regarded. His tenure actually rubbed people the wrong way in a lot of different facets. But there's a lot of interesting things that happened in Bob's 2 years. So he kind of focused more on financial cost cutting because some of the acquisitions and things that Bob Iger did before he's left kind of his tenure in a less than ideal place because he kind of had to pay for all that investment and deal with a lot of stuff going forward to make the shareholders happy and kind of to right the ship in certain small little ways. One of the things he did was that kind of pissed off a lot of customers and management under him was for parks. He implemented this thing called Genie Pass, where he added essentially more tiers to people's like fast passes at the Disneyland and Disney World parks in Florida and California. And I believe, Paris and other places as well. And, loyal Disney customers who have gone there not liking that because along with inflation and things getting more expensive, I think Disney tickets at one point for these parks have like increased every year for a while. So compared to maybe 10 years ago or in the 90s, it's something affordable like going to Disney is kind of out of the reach of a lot of people. And to add on to that with a lot of the middle management, he actually fired a lot of Bob Iger loyalists in the VP, director, management layers of the company, just because he was afraid of something like this happening. He would be replaced back with Bob Iger, right? So, and the final thing that kind of gleaned through articles and talk more about this once we're a little bit more well-researched in next Sunday. But for Disney Plus, the streaming service that they have, he actually hid a lot of the cash losses from that segment of Disney and basically allocated it to different departments. So
right, I saw that part. I saw that too.
So,
yeah, he made it. He adjusted the book so we're like it looked like they lost less in that area or whatever.
Yeah, so you call it a lot of different things. It could be financial chicanery. If you want to be a little bit more permissive to what he did, you can call it financial manipulation, or just moving around the books like you're talking about to spread out like the losses and have other business segments or organizations within Disney handle that burn so it doesn't look as bad to the shareholders. Because essentially what are a lot of these companies doing in the streaming wars, so these streaming services all competing against each other, they're all willing to take a loss right now in order to punish existing incumbents like Netflix, right? Netflix is king in terms of subscriber count, but these companies are fine just burning cash, producing all this content to draw people into their service, essentially. So with all that kind of context in view, essentially what happened, I believe, last Sunday, very late in the night, Bob Chapek was fired and Bob Iger was returned. Now, this is unusual because if this were to happen in any other term, it might happen on a Friday where that can kind of get lost in the weekend news. But what people are speculating is that since this happened on Sunday, either something happened or because all these shareholders on the board have to agree to Bob Iger coming back. So they believed it was a diagnosed situation where the future was looking bleak for Disney under Bob Chapek's leadership, that they would rather have Bob coming back and then just pay him almost like a king's ransom to right the ship. So in the end, why do I find this story very interesting, right? We both read at least parts or all of like 48 Laws of Power by Robert Greene. So what I find fascinating about this is when you come into a new leadership position or like your new boss, like how you remember that famous quote from 40 Laws of Power in the introduction, whether or not you like power and the dynamics of power is always going to be around you. So you should always know the laws of power in order to know how to play the game. So throughout this whole process, he made a lot of mistakes in terms of a lot of the laws in that book. So one that kind of just sticks out immediately with like Bob Iger being so well regarded is, it's very tough in terms of leadership if you come in the shadow of like a giant. So what I mean by that, like we see it a lot in football, right? Let's say that you're a rookie quarterback and you have to follow up someone who had a Hall of Fame career, right? It's going to be that much more harder than if you start at some new place, right? Sometimes you're successful, like in terms of like Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, but your cast is that much more difficult. And then for a lot of other things, we can kind of dig into that. But this whole kind of coup d'etat of Bob Iger coming back, I just found really fascinating because, while Bob Chapek was doing this leadership, maybe having to do unpopular things, he was making a lot of those mistakes in terms of the laws of power. And it is very fascinating because this type of like backroom maneuvering in order to replace people and actually Bob Iger coming back, it reminds me a lot of the show Succession, right? Because there's a lot of backroom dealing and backstabbing in order to get what you want.
No, a lot of interesting things to go over there. I appreciate what you've already said. But let me ask you a couple of questions here so we can expand this. For starters, though, did I hear you correctly? There's actually a Disney in Paris?
Yeah, there's Disney in Paris and in Tokyo.
I knew about Tokyo and stuff, but I did not know about the Paris one. Holy shit.
Maybe they shut it down. I'm not sure if it was that successful. Maybe Disney.
Yeah, there's just Disney in Tokyo, but there's also like a Universal Studios in, Japan too and stuff.
Yep.
I didn't know about Paris though.
Yep. I just confirmed they have a Disneyland in Paris.
Well, good for them. That's interesting. But now back to the actual guy though. You said in 2020 he left. I didn't catch why did he leave? Why? Because of the pandemic or something?
So this is one of the fascinating things too, because you can speculate, right? Or kind of guess. A lot of people are making assumptions or like projections that Bob Iger knew the writing was on the wall in terms of, hey, there's been a lot of shutdowns in other countries and in China. Most likely this is going to happen in the United States. Like, if I were to retire, it would be best to retire right now and I have to deal with these financial headaches that I'm going to have to deal with for the next however so many years, right? So people are saying that he knew that it wasn't going to look good. It'd be a tough job. And he's like, oh, well, might as well go out on top, right? And again, you can interpret that positively or negatively, right? He's older. Maybe he just wants to enjoy his life. He already made enough money. He already cemented his legacy. If you want to look at it more, less favorably, let's just say that, he knew that he was handing this new CEO, Bob Chapek, a bad hand, and he would be able to come back and be seen as the savior.
That's hilarious, though. So he did but just to be clear again, he did step down. He did step down himself.
In February 2020, a month before the pandemic shutdowns.
Yeah, okay. That's hilarious, though, yeah. Based on what you're trying to say, it's like he was like, I'm just going to let someone else fucking take this loss and then scoot back in when it's time to have fun again.
Yeah.
When you're looking back up some murder, damn, that is some serious, like, laws of power right there, man. If he played it that way, really? Damn.
And that's, again, all up to interpretation. Like, again,
right.
Yeah, the outcome's the same. Maybe he literally just was tired from being CEO that long and this played out well for him and he just saw an opportunity just recently. Or you can say, like, more long term, he's been more Machiavellian and he's like, oh yeah, I'll just come back in 2 years when and still look good. And this interim CEO, Bob Chapek, just does all the unfavorable things that would take a hit against my popularity.
Yeah, no, that's very clever, actually. Nothing I wanted to talk about too, there was that you mentioned was funny because you're right, though. The cost of Disney World is so fucking high at this point. Those trips, it's almost you'd be better off again just going internationally, someplace different, and experiencing that. It's cost the same, if not more, at this point.
Yeah. And the crazy thing is, demand hasn't let up at all. It's at record highs, so they keep on raising them, understandably too. Like, it's not just them trying to. Again, if you just look at it as a normal market, right? Once demand increases, cost must increase to lower demand and reduce traffic. So if you look at it at that equation, if they want only a certain amount of traffic, they'll have to raise the prices in order to make sure it's a satisfactory experience for people.
Dude, that is so freaking cool to think about. Man, what a great, that's actually, I'm not even going to look at it from like a moral standpoint. Just from like a way that you can like control that. It's like, yeah, we have too many people here. Like our workers can't keep up with it and shit. So screw it. Let's just raise the prices by $1,000. We get less people coming in. We can manage it better. We're maybe getting even more money from it. I mean, that's weird to think about. That's crazy.
Dude,
what kind of power Disney World has, man. Jesus.
And that's just basic economics, right? But it is fascinating, right? Because, again, a lot of this is up to interpretation, right? But it's also good for the consumer if they can afford it, right? Because, like, imagine if like the prices like were $20, right? No one would be able to ride maybe at most one ride, right? By raising the prices for the people who can afford it, they actually can enjoy more stuff with less lines. So it becomes this complicated equation where, they obviously have the analytics for it, but they know the wait times that the average person is going to be able to sustain and still be a happy experience.
I would never look at Disney World the same way ever again now. You ruined Disney World for me.
I'm sorry, man.
I know we're like waiting in line down. I know some analyst is going to be sitting there. He's not having a good time, so we need to fucking raise the price.
And then as soon as it's raised by like $50, like when the line's faster, you'll be like, right now I'm happy.
Right, yeah. It's interesting though, because is there anything else like that in the world that works that way? Because again, I'm thinking of something like movie theaters though. You raise the prices on movie theaters, you're fucking killing the theater.
Yeah.
But why is it that? I guess right because it's the most magical place on earth, right? That whole selling standpoint is just so powerful.
Well, let me give you another example, like where raising prices could actually be beneficial to the people that could afford it. Think about think about a nightclub.
No, sorry. I know, I totally understand that.
Yeah.
Again, more so just the question I asked you was, why is it that Disney World can like really do this versus like, again, like your local theater? like our big popular theater, like IMAXs and shit like that? Or is there anything else that's comparable to Disney World? I guess would be a better question.
It's all demand. If you have high demand, you can raise prices if you want.
Right. So I'm the one that's actually overcomplicated.
Yeah.
I just overcomplicate myself. I'm looking at it right. So it is just that Disney World. It is you, and that's the demand that is created.
Yeah.
Because something, but that does say that there is something special with Disney World. Because it does have that demand. Fair?
Yeah. And that can actually be broken down to multiple things, right? So how is demand drawn up? It could be the intrinsic value of the actual experience. Like it's a 10 out of 10 experience. It's like life changing. It could actually be just a decent product, and you have great marketing and great branding, which you could argue for Disney they have all three, depending on like how you look at it. But why do people shop at Hermes and Louis Vuitton? A lot of that's like quality, branding, marketing, exclusivity. So that funnel and drawing people into different experiences can be different. Like you might not want a Louis Vuitton bag, but that company knows their customers so well and they brand it so well that they have enough demand to make a ton of money.
Damn. Yeah, it's just, man, that's what I'm thinking about with Disney World. That's pretty cool to think about too, though, man. I mean,
yeah, I mean, I like, I'll be honest, like I actually probably one of my not second, maybe I just didn't do as well in it. Like was my microeconomics class, but in general, economics is very fascinating because I mean we're all irrational so there's not going to be one equation that is finite or definite, but in general, these principles like hold true, right? As demand gets higher, prices get higher. As demand goes down, in order to move inventory, you have to cut prices. And then a lot of markets have these equilibriums where, hey, on Amazon, you might buy socks like I just recently did for wool socks. I know maybe without even knowing that there's going to be some upper threshold where I won't buy socks. And then that company's going to have to lower it for if they want to get me as a customer. But there might be somewhere else in the world that is willing to buy those socks for that price. So again, you could go down a rabbit hole, but it is really fascinating.
No, for sure. What kind of wool, though? Do you know what kind of wool you bought?
I have to double check.
Just curious. I've been seeing shit like this.
But they're warm.
This certain wool that people are buying right now are that it's like very popular for like traveling.
Yeah.
That's kind of curious if that's what you bought. The kind of wool. If you tell me the name, I could remember it, but if you don't know, it's fine too.
Yeah, I've texted you after. I don't know off the top of my head.
But also, better thing, so the guy that did get replaced, though, I don't know, again, that's what you described. I mean, who knows? This could have been a really good idea. Either way, I still think it's maybe sick, though. But just a tier system to the Fast Pass.
Yeah.
It's like the whole idea of, like BMW has a subscription now for like heat warmers and shit, like seated heats and stuff. It's like, so now you have to get a subscription to fucking Fast Pass, like, or some crazy bullshit tier system. That sounds sick, man.
Yeah. So,
pay more money. I mean, listen, that's just, I mean, that is literally just as vicious as it gets in terms of like money. Though, it's like, yeah, you have more money, you get to go ahead of us because you paid for it. I mean, what do you do? This is magic. It's magic.
Funny enough, guess what that tiered Fast Pass system is called?
The Magic Pass or something?
Genie Plus.
Yeah, it's true though. I was like, I have money because imagine the little, it's like so what? The Bob, yeah. Wait, that's the guy that got fired with Bob.
Yeah, I mean they're both named Bob, but the
Bob, right?
Yeah.
Chapman, yeah. I was like, imagine my like a little girl, it's this, Kim Kardashian, her fat ass walks by with her family and stuff, and I have like a little daughter. She pulls my shirt, Daddy, how come they get to go ahead of us? I was like, what the fuck am I supposed to say to my daughter, Bob? Chap, what am I supposed to say to her? It's like, sorry, the magic is stronger with them. Mickey Mouse bless them.
It's it depends on how old they are. But if I were to describe it, I'd just say they paid for a different experience. No, honestly, yeah, they paid for a different experience. Now you
you're a class act businessman. God damn. How come you're not marketing?
So you actually bring up a really good point though about the what was it, BMW or Volkswagen? Which company?
Yeah, the BMW, all those.
Yeah. Okay.
Like subscription-based seat warmers now and shit.
Now, this is where there could be like some market inefficiencies, or we kind of brushed on these topics before. This is where I think certain products and services, they're either double dipping, and I'll kind of explain that like really quickly. Like with Apple or Amazon, they have ads like on their marketplaces. That's where I think they might be double dipping and slightly adversarial to the customers, and it's not really providing the customers actual value. And that's where it kind of gets bastardized, or like the incentives actually at the company become anti-consumer. So for example, I think this BMW thing is anti-consumer because if you already built the car, then like all the services should be enabled by default. Now it becomes different if the actual customer is ordering it at the dealership, right? And they configure it to be built at the factory, right? That might be different, but I hate it when these companies add these kind of like these kind of tack on bullshit services, like in the video game industry, the microtransactions or whatever. Sometimes it's like play to win, or just they already built the service, now they just want to like double charge you, right? Like I don't think that's right. Now I don't know all the details about BMW, but this kind of reminds me of our talk about video games, right? Like why don't you just build a fully bug-free game rather than having like releasing essentially the beta and then fixing it like a year from now? I think you should just deliver a product that has like gives the customers value, and then for the microtransactions, I can understand if it's just like cheap skins or cosmetics, right? But there's no reason that someone should be able to spend $50,000 to like buy all the microtransactions. You know what I mean? Like it just at some point becomes ridiculous and anti-consumer. Yeah.
Well, we're in the thick of it. I mean,
yeah,
it ain't going to get better. I can promise you that. It's going to get worse first, my friend.
Yeah. Well, and like at least my view of business is, I'm not sure if you read a book called The Profit. We read it in college in our supply chain classes. But the ultimate goal of a business is to make money. So we can't always forget that. But in making that money, in order to keep the customers happy, you have to give that value. So it's a fair exchange, right? It's reciprocal.
Well, listen, this is where we're kind of back to the other week where I was talking about the minimalist shit. Listen, at this point, maybe that's why that shit is kind of safer, spending more money for a good quality product, even though, right, it's like, you end up spending like a lot more, but at least you're going to get something better. It's like, man, I would love for it to be like that then. Sure, let's all spend more money, but it better be a goddamn good product then.
Yeah.
And quit trying to shortchange us on like everything. Let's just pay more money for better things.
Yeah.
I think it would be simple, but nope. It's more about the dollar, man. It's more about how can we get this. That's what they're thinking from. They're thinking from the standpoint of just $1, right? Because how can you get $1 from one person? Because if you can get $1 from one person, you're able to get $1 from a million people potentially, right? It's because it's easier. So that's what like these people like are looking from, right? That's why they're so predatory, right? It's just a couple of dollars, like $1 here, $1 there, and that shit just adds up. The next thing you know, you got 10 million people buying the same shitty skins and stuff, and you're $1 billion company.
Yeah.
Versus let's make a $300 product and let's get people to buy that. And then everyone's fucking doing research. Oh, is this a good product?
And I'm not like I think it's fine for people that add on these services. I just like when it becomes like anti-consumer, where you're essentially creating these new services out of nowhere, like essentially gatekeeping them from a regular
gatekeeping.
Yeah. But yeah, you also got to understand it from the business perspective too. So why do a lot of these companies like this subscription revenue? Is because it's consistent, reliable revenue that they can project in their financial reports. So instead of getting $8 right now, like it might sound counterintuitive, but you'd rather want $8 for the whole year because that's easy to project and plan accordingly and change strategy faster. And then in terms of like these incentives, right? I understand why it's happening and why these services like are trying to make as much money, because you're legally bound to maximize shareholder wealth when you're a corporation. So this is where you need like a strong CEO with like a vision in order to like see the long-term effects, right? Like, oh, we're reinvesting profits for like to build these cool products, or like just say no to things that like are anti-consumer. So I know that's not always possible. For example, let's say you build your company and then you lose a lot of your equity stake in order to actually fund it to grow, right? So, but I think at the end of the day, Amazon was actually a good example for a long time. They were actually able to tell like Wall Street and shareholders for a long time that, hey, we're not going to give out the dividend because we're going to constantly reinvest in the business. So long term, we're better. Now, again, they have their own issues like right now, but I'm saying, if I were to start a business, right, like you obviously, again, the goal to make business is to make money, but it should also be a vision where at the end of the day, after your client or customer uses your service, their life is easier, better, or more efficient in some way.
No, I got you. No, I mean, I just want to go back to my little girl, man. So one of my little girl. Just imagine me kneeling down to her. Imagine me kneeling down to her and looking at her in the eyes and going, like, sweetheart, Mickey Mouse loves them more. God loves them more. You know?
Or hey, sorry, baby. They know one of the Disney princesses and we don't.
Yeah, like, sweetheart, they know one of the Disney princesses. We don't. Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, man. I mean, the savvy response, they're a different experience. That's like, grow up. We're poor. You get it now? Yeah. We're here. You should be thankful.
Or what's the thing you always say, like, hey, let's just enjoy this moment.
Wait, what's that from?
Or like you said some variation and be like, hey, let's just enjoy this moment.
What's that from though?
I don't know. I feel like it's something you would say.
Yeah, let's enjoy this moment. Or that. Yeah, because it sounds like something close to what yeah, whatever.
Like, or maybe just me misremembering that. Remember the old Teddy Roosevelt quote? Comparison is the thief of joy.
Yes. No. Yeah. That's something different. I like that quote too. Yeah. I like that quote. Comparison is the thief of joy. That's kind of hard to avoid though. It's hard to avoid when Mickey Mouse is fucking you in the ass.
Happiest place on earth, right?
Yeah, dancing around, the other people. Part of the magic.
Did please remind me, Lucas, if I'm misremembering too. In our last two episodes, did we talk about anything about these YouTube sponsorships with like other YouTubers and how they got into kind of a little bit of hot water with sponsoring stuff like FTX and established titles?
Not fully and stuff, but we can save that for another podcast or something, or just
okay. Like I'll just keep it short and sweet. Like because I do think we talked about it. So this is a reminder. Sorry, audience, but it'll be really quick. Again, I think if you have a YouTube channel, we did talk about this. Okay, so if you have an audience and your brand, like, should be very careful and vet the people.
Yeah. Okay. No. Yes. This conversation. Yes, we talked about that. Yes.
And again.
I remember. I listen. I promise.
but again, it just goes all to consumer value and like you valuing your audience. I'm not saying on a one-to-one level. I'm just saying, hey, like you're aligning with yourself with certain people. Like you should do the bare amount of research, saying like, hey, do I actually use this product? Do I actually support them? Right? Like I can tell you one thing for sure. Like sponsorships like Raid Shadows, I wouldn't like get sponsored by them because I don't play it, and I think it's just one of those microtransaction games, right? But like I can understand the temptation, right? Like we always have to constantly battle our urge to give into greed, right? And it's for that long-term benefit. You want to be known as an upstanding person, someone who has morals, and then like just the type of person you are, right? So just be careful on who you let sponsor you and who you did business with. Simple as that.
No, for sure. Definitely don't want to be doing business with people like Chapman or whatever. He made Disney World he made Disney World bad. So I'm excited to see what the other guy does then. Does he actually? That's what I'm going to ask you too. We kind of leave from there actually too, just briefly. And like, does he know where he wants to like start doing? Has any kind of plans been like revealed what like his objective is going forward now? Like, what's he thinking?
You know? I don't know that so far, but let's do a research this next week, and we can kind of do a part 2 on this next Sunday.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Yeah, kind of like a part 2 of that. I mean, I guess maybe the last thing we can talk about just briefly that I did kind of want to hit on just a little bit, especially when you're talking about like the traveling to Disney World stuff, like I mentioned earlier, like I'm just seeing this stuff, right? Because the EDC stuff, the everyday carry, and like the one bag travel kind of like idea too. So like you're traveling, I mean, even to like Disney World. I mean, Disney World would be a little more simpler, but definitely like internationally, like this whole idea of just bringing like one bag, right? Like one carry on, one kind of thing, right? You have to like check something in, and I mean, even that's not really like a big issue, but just right, living out of like one suitcase, one kind of bag, you know, like what are your thoughts on that? Because it's more approachable than you might think.
So it's funny you mentioned that because, and this is how my brain's wired, it's literally just intersections of pop culture. I immediately thought of the George Clooney movie Up in the Air, where he's talking about this really tiny suitcase that can easily carry everything he needs for the duration of his business trip. And because of how compact it is, it's easy for him to easily go through security and put it overhead on the overhead compartment, right?
Dude, I love that movie, but I forgot about it. There's probably like I might need to go back and watch that thing because is there like a lot of like this cool like little business savvy like tips and stuff in that movie? And I remember it being more just like a drama and stuff. But now you mentioned, I do remember him. Like, wait, is that movie like he's kind of like talking to like the camera too, like use like the audience?
I'm not sure. I believe Anna Kendrick's character is the audience insert character for that movie, where he's playing the ropes.
She's like, right, okay, now I remember. Yeah, because he's like, no, you should actually do this because this is going to be faster than the stereotypes. Yeah.
Yes, I was going to say, you gotta love that scene because he breaks down how much time per year you save by just having that small suitcase in terms of check-in, check-out, boarding the airplane. By having that small suitcase per year, you save 200 hours per year if you like constantly travel.
Yeah, maybe like all like these points and shit too. Dude, I need to watch that movie again. That movie was actually really good. I remember that. I actually really would like to watch that again. So that's pretty cool. That's like cool. I'm glad I mentioned the one bag travel thing because you got a really cool reference there, and everyone should watch that movie.
or like
that's the alley oop and the dunk. This podcast has been waiting for.
Hey, you and me, LeBron and Dwayne, just like.
That's what this podcast has been waiting for, the alley-oop and dunk of Lucas and Kevin. And we just got it, my friend.
Oh.
So, yeah, perfect reference off of a good idea. But no, because your suitcase, like you showed me, yeah, I mean, that's perfect, man. That's plenty big for. Here's the whole premise. Right. That's perfect. I mean, really, even 2 days you could but like the whole premise is like once you get to like, I mean, even a week's worth of clothes, right, or however much like you can fit in your bag and keep it as light as possible, and at that point it's like indefinite, right? Because as long as you can wash your clothes, you can just infinitely live back. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And that's like the whole like premise, and that opens up. Those are, let's be honest, like the best manageable for, I would assume, even the worst companies in America.
Yeah.
You know, even the worst companies in America, I think Americans can get away with a 2-3 week vacation. They're going to be able to, get a lot more value and make those kind of like trips work with like one bag if you're willing to, like wash clothes and just pack a little less. Instead, then you have this huge ass carry, like this huge suitcase filled with rim, bringing like 20 different outfits and shit.
Yeah, we need less than we think, and like you're right, at the different hotels where you're staying, you could easily just do laundry and just recycle and replenish, right?
Right. I mean, I've seen a lot of cool, useful tips, right? Just buy stuff when like you're there. I know some people that like buy really cheap clothes just to take and then like leave there, right? You can get rid of shit and just like frees up space. Like what you're wearing counts as an outfit too, and it's like definitely buy smaller, like your suitcase or like travel pack, because if you go smaller, then you're going to pack smaller, right? If you have the space, then you're going to try to overpack, and you will overpack. So it's just like a lot of really cool kind of like ideas, because I'm totally down for it, right? Thinking about the kind of trips, especially like you and me, that we're kind of maybe trying to take in the next couple. I mean, I don't want to get fucking bogged down in shit and have to worry about this shit. And we're doing like extended kind of stays at places. It's like, yeah, this is a lot more. It's like a small sacrifice that like walk to and get a lot more joy out of the trip.
Yeah, man. Like if we're smart about our YouTube channels and the podcasts and stuff like that, there's with just normal current jobs, right? Like that's enough money in the future. At least I think if we're smart again about the moves we make, that traveling can definitely be feasible, right? Because if you travel cheap and efficiently, a lot of things are possible, right? You just have to be willing to be financially flexible in terms of how you plan and do stuff, but your goals are a lot closer than you think. What I mean by that is, remember that conversation we had in terms of travel, where probably travel for a good portion of the year is like $40,000, right? That's a little bit more manageable than people think it is, right?
Oh, wait! I told you that someone traveled the. Say that again.
It might be a number pulling out of my ass, right? But I'm using it more as a point where $40,000, if you kind of budget accordingly, you'll probably travel for the whole year and survive the whole year, right?
Some guy, right. Some guy looked at the YouTube video. He traveled the entire year for $24,000.
Yeah.
And $6,000 of that was plane tickets.
Yeah.
So $4,000 is like shit. You can live like a fucking king, apparently, right? It's
yeah.
kind of crazy to think about, like the kind of money that you're using here and what you're wasting on versus if like you were traveling the world, you'd actually get just a lot more out of it, see a lot more, probably eat better, and it's fun to think about. But again, that's the whole idea. You got to be working though too.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. Like in terms of our media businesses, right? If we're consistent and smart, make the right moves, and deliver quality content, that could be enough of the budget builder, right?
Yeah, no, I'm excited for the future, and again, I'm excited to pack light. I'm excited to pack light and just try to bring like a week's worth of shit and wash the rest. Makes the most sense to me.
Yeah. One final thing I do think we should talk about in a future episode, because I just think it's a fascinating topic, especially after we kind of mentioned it with the everyday carries section. I definitely want to talk about George Clooney, the businessman, because he actually has a lot of fantastic decisions he made in terms of building brands and businesses during and like currently. I won't say the tail end, obviously not. He's still a great actor, but I'm saying, as he's gotten older in his career, he's made a lot of very sound business deals.
Yeah, no, for sure. Let's do that next week too. That's pretty good then. Again, I think this hits a good time limit for us. Again, we didn't want to extend the time too much here, so we'll just end off of Thanksgiving just happened, so like what we're thankful for. Kind of the same thing like before. I'm just thankful for what's happening, the people that are supporting me, my friends, and just the future. Really, that's seriously like I'm not. That's the Coke. Sorry, that's the Millennial Coke coming out of me. fuck you, fuck everything. I'm excited for the future.
Yeah.
We had it really important down to one thing. Like none of this. I don't want to sit here and cope on the present. I enjoy this moment so much. No, fuck that. I'm excited about what's coming. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I'm thankful for you. Obviously, friends and family, yada yada yada. We get over the obvious stuff.
Bread and butter.
Yeah. I'm now thankful for sweet potato casserole. Hated it in high school. Yeah. Now I love it. And then
no, hold on. But remember, I asked you like the souffle or like the actual baked. There's different kinds.
Baked.
Baked. More like souffle or like more like the fully baked.
I had the baked version with like pecans on top.
Okay, yeah. It's pretty similar, but yeah, you like sweet potato casserole. Good.
Yeah. And then obviously it's like very simple, but thankful for the internet. You can learn so much. Like we're actually publishing our thoughts and content online. So that's crazy to think about, right? Something just a couple of decades ago, now we're able to do and get our voices heard. And I know you had mentioned this thought about your YouTube channel personally, like almost being like a journal or diary. Like this is kind of like our combined journal and diary. I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that's the thing.
Yeah, I'm thankful for that too. Then I'm feeling that.
All right.
Well, yeah, that's it, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving. Hope you guys had a great week, and see you next week.